Hello Ravens, today we're going to be going through the expansion slot parts, breaking them down and ranking them in order of what we think is going to be best for the overall missions and for PvP. If you don't know what the expansion slot parts are, they're these unique parts that have really nice abilities, a very limited time use, but could totally change the tide of battle. We're going to be ranking them as in a tier list, if you see the bottom left there, basically just putting them in order of what I think that they're going to be best, S is being the greatest, C is the lowest. And so we're jumping into it right here. We're going to start off with the pulse protection. What is it first? So it's basically a pulse barrier, this big bubble shield that will protect you from any incoming damage. Right here, roughly. You got this nice bubble shield, boom, deflects all those missiles. So it's really cool, timed ability that can really save your life, especially in that case. That's a lot of missiles. And so I think it's either timed or durability. And I'm guessing it's durability because I did a little bit of math trying to calculate how much this could actually hold. If we go back and actually count each individual missile, it's crazy. Like, all right, so we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 11. There's probably some more on top. But if we count the rows, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm going to say there's 15 rows by 10. So we're looking at 150 missiles. And then if we think of their damage from some of the garage screenshots we've seen, they can range from 120 to 150 damage per missile. Obviously, there's going to be some kinetic or explosive resistances in our armor, so that'll negate some of that damage, but I'm guessing around 15k damage if we were to actually soak up all of those missiles. So this shield being able to pretty much stop, it takes a little bit of damage at the beginning, but it stops almost all of them, and then after he took about another 1,000 damage. So I'm guessing that this pulse protection has plus around 10k damage reduction. So that's pretty crazy. So let's talk about use cases. Where could this be useful for? I'm definitely thinking for any time you need to sit stationary because it doesn't move with you. Maybe you're in a mission where time is always sensitive. If you want to get those S ranks and you're at the top of a building, you need to snipe a whole bunch of cannon depots or hit all these different objectives, and you can just post up, put up your bubble shield, and maybe you're taking a whole bunch of incoming damage, but you can just focus on taking out each of those targets. That's one thing that's really useful. A timed ability like this to protect you from all those missiles. Maybe you just ran out of boost. You're like, oh shoot, I'm a sing duck. Activate and save your life. I think that those are both opportunities to use this. In PvP, I could see this being not as useful. Sitting around is generally not a good idea, and if they see you activate your pulse protection, they're not going to want to shoot at you. They're just going to let you wait until that goes away. So then maybe it gives you time to shoot, though. So there is some opportunity there. For me, I personally will put pulse protection in A, and that is primarily because of its cost. I think it's got some decent cost. It's only 2 chips compared to like pulse armor, which is 3, and then terminal armor is 5. We'll talk about assault armor later about being only 1, but I definitely think pulse protection is a good use case and should be pretty good all around defense. So that is pulse protection. Moving on to pulse armor. So similarly to pulse protection, it gives you that bubble that'll negate a whole bunch of damage. We don't know if there's a difference between the two. Love advanced details around this, but basically it's going to follow you around instead of just staying stationary. And we can see this on the boss right about here. I think it's boom, there you go. You can see that it has that shield activated, so a lot of our damage that we send at it could either be totally negated or just reduced. So having that around us would be really useful. I think there's a lot of different use cases. Let's say in a mission where time is extremely sensitive, you have a whole bunch of towers or just small units you just need to ignore, and you need to run. You need to beam straight through, activate the pulse armor, and just run. And so that's one of the things that you could do to make sure you get that S rank, or you just have a really high-speed battle where you're jumping, moving a lot. It could help protect you, especially in PvP. Let's say they got some missiles following you, tracking you down, and you activate your pulse armor because you know you're not going to be able to dodge those. It could soak up a whole bunch of missiles. So that is one of the potentials for pulse armor. But back to what I was saying about the upgrading, it costs 3 chips, and we don't know how it goes to the second or third updates. So those could cost a lot more if they scale either proportional or just equally, either 2 or 3. That could then get very expensive. Pulse armor could be a total cost of 6 for only 2 updates, and we don't know how many charges this is going to give. Potentially just an additional one, or it could give multiple. Imagine if we get 6 pulse protection charges, but we only get like 3 pulse armor, definitely means that the pulse protection would be more valuable. So with that being said, I am going to put pulse armor in the B tier. I think it's not as good as pulse protection. Pulse protection is harder. You have to time it perfectly that it actually uses and soaks up a lot of damage. You only want to use it for bursty champions, but there are going to be specific cases where the pulse armor would be better to use. So moving on to terminal armor. So terminal armor is quite interesting. What it does is pretty much gives you that last health, last stand, any of those other kind of game concepts where if you were to die, you're going to be able to survive with 1 HP, and you get a pulse barrier around you, which should hopefully, give you a little bit of invincibility for a few seconds to survive. I think that doesn't always work. Like I think I saw a video where you still died if you got hit by the tank boss. But either way, it is a cool ability. Let's see what it shows on this one. I think it's just, oh yeah, it was really cool. He would have lost the game, but then he managed to pull it back, and it's because he had 1 HP. So if we look right here, so he had 1,269 health left. He got smacked sometime soon. Boom, he took a cannon shot to the face, but he's surviving. He's pushing. He's like, oh shoot, I got to finish this guy today. Boom, landed the pulse cannon shot and survived the battle. So it could be really cool being able to survive that. So let's talk about use cases here. I think this would be pretty cool for any big bosses that have a major change of fighting style. Like, let's say right at that halfway mark, a lot of times in other RPGs, if you take a boss down at half HP, suddenly they change their whole move mechanic, and maybe one of them drops a nuke on you, and it's basically 15k AP, you should be dead. But because you have this, you survive, and then you just use your repair kits to heal up. You're able to finish that mission. That's really the only use case I could see where it actually exceeds over the other options. It's also just very expensive. If we go back here, it is 5 OST chips. There's no upgrades, so you get 1 use. I personally think this is the worst out of the different expansions you can get. I don't think it's going to be good in PvP, because if you're already losing and going to 0 before the enemy, this giving you a 1 more chance to survive, it ain't going to cut it. So I think you got to get good at that point. And terminal armor, you're going in the C tier. So moving on, we got assault armor. Obviously, there's only the S rank left. I'm going to throw that up there. And so with the S rank, assault armor, one, it's just cheaper. It has, it's only 1 OST chip per upgrade, I believe. We'll see. So that's only 3 for whatever the max uses these are. And so what the pulse armor does, what makes it a little bit different, is it's got this explosion similar to the bubble shield, but it actually also damages the opponent. So it actually negates all projectiles in that area. So it actually stops everything. It doesn't matter how many there is, but it's only an instant use. So this is where the skill really comes in. If you're really good at the game, if you know how to time things right, this is where you negate all that damage and you do opposing damage. You're going to have more charges. You're saving OST chips. This is the best use. And in PvP, I think this is also going to be the #1 expansion that most people go to. It's going to give you that ability to also do damage, and if you time it right, you could block if all their damage, let's say you're about to get staggered, you hit that right at that second, saves you a second to just build up your stagger, reduce that, save yourself, and also do some damage to them, and potentially a lot of stagger damage, and then you can turn the whole tide of the battle. I think that's going to be a huge expansion slot to use, especially once you're able to get more charges in it, and yeah, so that is why I am putting that at S tier. I really think it's going to be a really good expansion part. So I want to give one big shout out real quick to the Rubicon Dogs. This is actually the video I've been watching. They have done a really cool job of compiling all 4 of the expansion slots in one concise video. So huge shout out to them. I've attached their link in the bio below, along with the 4 influencers where the videos came from as well. And I got one more thing to do. We got our 5th right here. We have the Polemos icon. Of course, we're S tier, baby. You better believe it. We had to have 5 images, so that's why it's there. But hey, if you like this video, smash that like button, give us a subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.